When Nintendo announced the Super NES Classic Edition back in June, it instantly brought back memories of me being a kid, back to an era of ill-fitting pants, Nickelodeon, Fresh Prince, and amazing games. I mean, here we have 20 mostly classic Super NES games, plus the never-before-released Star Fox 2, all wrapped up in an adorable tiny Super Nintendo form factor. What's not to love? And after going hands-on with it recently for about 30 minutes or so, I can answer that question. There's pretty much nothing not to love about the Super NES Classic Edition. It takes everything the NES Classic did right, and does it again, except for the Super Nintendo library, while throwing in a few notable improvements. The overall user interface is still simple and almost identical to the NES Classic, only now featuring the distinctive purple and gray theming of the Super Nintendo. Finding a title to play is still easy, allowing you to sort them in various ways, including by release date, publisher, alphabetically by title, which games have two-player support, whichever ones you played most recently, or those that you played the most. And like before, the Super NES Classic Edition allows you to create up to 4 suspend points for each game, which this time are cleverly displayed as labels on an SNES cartridge, and they allow you to pick up exactly where you left off at, or at any other point that you decided to save at. And you can even lock individual suspend points just so you don't accidentally overwrite them later. Now for better or worse, creating a suspend point or even returning to the main menu works exactly like before, where you have to hit the reset button on the console itself. And in this case, that might require you to stretch a little bit farther than with the NES Classic, since the controller cord has thankfully been extended an additional 2 feet, making them 5 feet long in total. It's a big improvement, but I still wish they were a little bit longer. But hey, at least you probably won't have to play with the Super Nintendo Classic in your lap this time. But the Super Nintendo Classic brings something new to the table here, because each of those quick saves now allows access to a brand new feature, being the ability to rewind to the point that you saved up to a few minutes back in time and start playing from there instead. Now the exact amount of time they can rewind varies per game. Super Mario Kart allowed me to rewind up to 50 seconds or so, whereas the RPGs in the compilation, like Final Fantasy III, should allow you to rewind up to a few minutes. But regardless of the exact amount of time, this is an amazing feature, allowing you to easily undo mistakes, even well past the point that you made one. Imagine taking on a boss in Earthbound or Secret of Mana, and realizing you're long past the point of no return. Well, in that case, just hit that reset button, reload that suspend point, and rewind it back far enough to try a different series of attacks. And in a neat twist, the Super NES Classic can use those suspend points and its rewind feature as the very demos of play when you idle on the main menu. Although you do have the option to turn that feature off if you want in lieu of the built-in demos instead. The Super Nintendo Classic also shares the exact same display options as the NES Classic, allowing you to display the game in one of 3 different ways. Their original 4:3 aspect ratio, or in pixel perfect mode for a sharper image, or in 4:3 again, but with an old school CRT filter applied to approximate how the games looked on an actual TV back in the day. But there is a new feature here as well, the ability to change the border that appears around the game, whether it's standard black or something a little bit more showy, like a wooden frame. Some of the borders even change color to match what's going on the screen, which is a neat, if completely unnecessary touch. Although I do have a feeling I'll be sticking with plain black, even if that wood trim is kinda tempting. Okay, but that's enough about borders. What about the thing that really matters? Being the games themselves. Well, I had the chance to try out a handful of them, such as Super Mario Kart, Donkey Kong Country, and Super Mario World, and they all looked and sounded just as fantastic as I remembered. The games looked bright and vibrant, unlike their poor representation on the Wii U's Virtual Console, and the performance seemed to be spot on, with no noticeable input lag. Now, I'll of course withhold final judgment until I had the chance to put the Super Nintendo Classic through some more thorough testing, but the early showing made a really good first impression, and I have no reason to be concerned about the accuracy of the emulation here. Really, when you get down to it, I'm just a little bit jealous of anyone who gets to enjoy these classics for the very first time. Now, even though a good amount of these games have been re-released on the Virtual Console before, this is the very first time that any Super FX chip-enabled game has been made available in their original form since the Super Nintendo, which in this case includes Star Fox and Yoshi's Island. So that's pretty darn cool, and honestly, if you've only played Yoshi's Island on the Game Boy Advance, then you really owe it to yourself to play the vastly superior Super Nintendo version, with its higher quality music and improved special effects. And speaking of Super FX chip games that have never been re-released, Star Fox 2 takes it a step further by having never been released at all. This is essentially a brand new Star Fox game, even if a ton of its elements have since been lifted by other games in the series, like Star Fox 64's All Range Mode, or Star Fox Command's Real-Time Map, or even more recently, Star Fox Zero's Walker Transformation. Yep, these were all ideas first pioneered in Star Fox 2, which makes going back to the original source a very strange but oddly appealing endeavor. One of the missions I played involved me taking on Leon and Team Starwolf, yep, they were first created for Star Fox 2 as well, in an all-range battle. And let me tell you, having full 360-degree control in a game that looks like the original Star Fox felt really freaking weird, but also kind of awesome. On the one hand, it truly does feel like a sequel to the original game, while on the other hand, it almost feels like a prototype for the other Star Fox games since, such as how Leon's AI consists almost entirely of flying away and then flying head-on at you. It can feel a bit simplistic, but also fun. Another level was a more conventional corridor-based mission, but one where I could transfer my will into the Arwing's Walker form, which again felt really freaking weird, especially compared to the recent Star Fox Zero. It really is a total trip playing a game that feels so familiar and yet fresh at the same time. And not just visually. It almost felt like a modern retro-styled game, along the lines of Mega Man 9 or 10 or Sonic Mania, in that it's a return to the style of the original game, while incorporating ideas and conventions from later in the series. Look, I'll be real, for as awesome as the collection of games here is, Star Fox 2 is probably the one I'm most excited for, simply because it's never had the chance to be a game until now. So yeah, I really can't wait to play even more of that once I get the chance, especially since it's the only true sequel the original Star Fox game ever had. And I think it's pretty darn cool that the Super Nintendo Classic is finally providing that opportunity. Although it should be noted that Star Fox 2 won't become available until after you complete the first level in the original Star Fox game, which really shouldn't take you too long, but it is something to be aware of. Okay, so needless to say, I think the Super Nintendo Classic is pretty darn cool so far. Now, do I wish there were even more games, especially compared to the NES Classic's 30? Of course I do, especially given the fact that there are some strange omissions, like Donkey Kong Country 2 and Chrono Trigger. But much of the selection that is here are among some of the best games ever made, and they're presented in a way that's accurate to the original versions, along with some enhancements like suspend points and the ability to rewind, making them even more accessible than ever before. The Super NES Classic launches in North America on September 29th for $79.99, with pre-orders reportedly going live later this month. Thanks for watching, and make sure to hit that subscribe button for lots more on the Super NES Classic, including our full review, and everything else Nintendo as well.